What if I told you that a simple water jug could be a greater obstacle to enlightenment than an entire palace filled with riches? This isn't a riddle. It's the key to a profound spiritual secret discovered by the great 12th century mystic Ibn Arabi on a dusty road to Baghdad. A secret that reveals the true nature of what it means to be possessed by the world. This is not just a story about a historical figure. It is an exploration of a question that echoes in the heart of every modern person who has ever felt trapped, not by their circumstances, but by their own minds. We live in an age that champions both limitless acquisition and its aesthetic opposite, minimalism. We are told to either build an empire or to declutter our lives down to a handful of essential items. But both paths can be a trap, because both focus on the external arrangement of our lives, not the internal state of our hearts. The journey we are about to embark upon, guided by the footsteps of a young seeker who would come to be known as Sheikh al-Akbar, the greatest master, will take us beyond this false dichotomy. It will lead us to the very root of our attachments, to the subtle, invisible chains that bind us. It is a journey that promises not a new set of rules for how to live, but a revolutionary new way of seeing. It is an invitation to discover that true freedom is not about how much or how little you own, but about how much space there is in your heart. Our guide, Muhyiddin ibn Arabi, was born in Andalusia, in a Spain incandescent with the light of poetry, science, and spiritual inquiry. He was a man whose entire life was a testament to the idea of the journey. He was a spiritual geographer, a cartographer of the soul. His 75 years were a grand pilgrimage, not just across lands, from Spain to North Africa, from Mecca to Anatolia, but through the inner landscapes of consciousness. He sought out and learned from over 300 masters, but his greatest teacher was reality itself, which he learned to read in the faces of strangers, in the patterns of nature, and in the silent chambers of his own heart. The story that unlocked this profound perception for him did not take place in a grand library or a revered mosque. It happened, as the most transformative lessons often do, in the crucible of an ordinary journey, when he was still a young man, his mind brilliant and sharp, but his heart not yet fully awakened to the subtleties of the path. Picture the young Ibn Arabi making the long and arduous journey to Baghdad. Baghdad was then a center of the world, a city of dazzling intellect and profound spirituality. He travels with the keen eyes of a seeker, observing everything, analyzing everything. His journey is interrupted by the sight of a tranquil stream, a ribbon of life cutting through the arid landscape. And there, by the water's edge, he sees a man who seems to be the very embodiment of spiritual poverty. The man is a dervish, a fisherman. He sits patiently, his clothes simple, his face weathered by the sun and etched with a deep serenity. Beside him is a humble hut, woven from reeds, barely a shelter from the elements. This is a man who appears to own nothing. Ibn Arabi, guided by the seeker's instinct to connect with anyone who seems to touch a deeper reality, approaches him and offers a greeting of peace. He asks the man what he is doing. The fisherman looks up, his eyes clear and calm, and explains his life with a beautiful simplicity. "I live in that reed hut," he says, gesturing with his head, "and my sustenance comes from this river. Every day I trust that it will offer me 2 fish. One is for my own nourishment, the other is for God's nourishment, in the form of a guest, like yourself, should one happen to pass by."
There is no anxiety in his voice, no ambition, no complaint, only a deep, flowing acceptance of his reality. Ibn Arabi is moved by this profound trust and simplicity. He accepts the man's quiet invitation and becomes his guest, sharing in the day's provision. As they speak, the fisherman learns that his young, learned guest is bound for the great city of Baghdad. The fisherman's eyes light up with a gentle fire. He leans forward and makes a heartfelt request. "In that city," he says, "lives a man I love dearly, a true friend of God. I do not have the means to make such a journey myself, but since you are going, would you do me a great service? Would you visit him on my behalf and ask him, from me, for a word of counsel, a piece of advice to help me on my path?" Ibn Arabi, eager to be of service and intrigued by this connection between two seemingly disparate worlds, readily agrees. "Of course," he says, "I am already going. It would be an honor to visit this sage for you." He takes the name and address, bids the fisherman farewell, and continues on his journey, his mind already turning over the encounter. He carries with him the image of the fisherman's utter simplicity, a benchmark for the spiritual life. After many days, he arrives in Baghdad. He navigates the bustling, vibrant streets, attends to his own affairs, and then sets out to find the sage. The address leads him not to a humble quarter of the city, not to a simple dwelling like the fisherman's, but to a district of astounding wealth. He finds himself standing before a magnificent mansion, a small palace with towering gates, polished marble, and lush gardens. Guards stand at the entrance, and liveried servants move about with quiet efficiency. A storm of confusion begins to brew in Ibn Arabi's heart. Could this be the right place? How could this opulent man, living in a fortress of worldly success, be the beloved spiritual guide to the simple fisherman by the river? His entire conception of spirituality, built on the ideal of renunciation and asceticism, is thrown into question. He announces himself and the purpose of his visit. Word is sent inside, and to his surprise, he is granted an audience. He is led through courtyards fragrant with jasmine, past fountains whispering over cool tiles, and into a reception room of quiet elegance. There sits the sage. He is a man of immense presence and dignity, his face radiating a profound peace that seems utterly at odds with the splendor surrounding him. They speak, and Ibn Arabi finds the man to be wise, gracious, and deeply perceptive. He recognizes the fisherman from Ibn Arabi's description, a fond smile touching his lips. As the meeting draws to a close, Ibn Arabi remembers his promise. "Before I leave," he says, "I must fulfill my duty. The fisherman by the river, your friend, asked me to convey a request. He asks for your counsel, a word of advice for his spiritual journey." The sage nods slowly. He closes his eyes. The room falls into a deep, resonant silence. It is not an empty silence, but a full one, as if the sage is dipping a vessel into the deep well of his own heart. After a long moment, he opens his eyes, looks directly at Ibn Arabi, and speaks a single, cryptic sentence.
"Tell him," the sage says, his voice calm and clear, "to remove the world from his heart." Ibn Arabi is stunned into silence. The sheer, shocking paradox of the message leaves him speechless. This man, a veritable king in his palace, surrounded by every conceivable form of worldly wealth, is advising a man who owns literally nothing to remove the world from his heart? The audacity of it, the seeming hypocrisy, is almost too much to bear. But he sees the utter sincerity in the sage's eyes. He is not a hypocrite. He is speaking a truth that Ibn Arabi simply cannot yet comprehend. He offers his thanks, confused but intrigued, and takes his leave. The journey back is a long meditation on this riddle. The sage's words echo in his mind, rubbing against the image of the fisherman's simple life. How could a man with nothing have the world in his heart? And how could a man with everything seemingly be free of it? It makes no logical sense. His analytical mind, so adept at philosophy and theology, can find no purchase on this slippery truth. Finally, after days of travel, he arrives back at the stream. The fisherman is there, as if he had never left, a picture of tranquil patience. He greets Ibn Arabi warmly, his eyes shining with anticipation. After they exchange pleasantries, the fisherman cannot contain his eagerness any longer. The master, he asks, his voice filled with reverence, "Did he send a message for me? Did he offer any advice?" Ibn Arabi looks at the simple, earnest man and delivers the perplexing message exactly as it was given to him. "Yes," he replies, "he did. He said to tell you, remove the world from your heart." The effect of these words is instantaneous and overwhelming. The fisherman's face, a moment before filled with hopeful light, crumples. His eyes fill with tears, which soon begin to trace paths through the dust on his cheeks. He lets out a soft sob, a sound of profound recognition and grief. Now Ibn Arabi's confusion turns to utter astonishment. He had expected the fisherman to be as bewildered as he was, or perhaps even offended by the seeming absurdity of the advice. But instead, the fisherman weeps as if the message has pierced him to the core. "I don't understand," Ibn Arabi finally says, his voice full of a genuine desire to learn. "I am lost in this affair. The man who gave this advice lives in splendor, surrounded by possessions, guards, and servants. You, on the other hand, have nothing in this world. And yet, he tells you to remove the world from your heart, and you weep as if you understand? What is the secret here? Please explain this to me." The fisherman takes a deep, shuddering breath, wipes his eyes with the back of his hand, and looks at the young seeker. He begins to speak, and with his words, he dismantles Ibn Arabi's entire worldview. "You are right," the fisherman says, his voice thick with emotion. "As you can see, I have almost nothing that belongs to this world. My food comes from the river. My home is woven from its reeds. I have no money, no status, no fine things. But," he pauses, and his gaze drifts toward his humble hut, "there is one thing I own. Inside that hut is a small clay jug. It is an old, simple thing, worth next to nothing. I use it to perform my ablutions before I pray."
He looks back at Ibn Arabi, his eyes filled with a raw and honest pain. "But every time I stand to pray, every time I try to turn my face and my heart completely toward the divine, a thought pierces my concentration. A whisper of fear enters my heart. What if someone passes by and steals my water jug? It's the only one I have. What if it gets broken?" This thought, this worry over a worthless piece of clay occupies my heart. It becomes a veil, a thick curtain between me and the presence I am seeking. In the most sacred moments, my heart is not with God, it is with my water jug. He takes another breath, the tears beginning to fall again. That great sage, my beloved friend, he may be surrounded by a palace and all its treasures, but he possesses them with an open hand. None of it enters the inner sanctum of his heart. None of it becomes a veil between him and his beloved. His heart is spacious and empty, ready to receive the divine presence. But my heart, he taps his chest softly, my heart has become a cramped and anxious prison, and the jailer is a cheap water jug. He told me to remove the world from my heart, and he was right. My jug has become my entire world. That is why I weep. In that moment, a lightning flash of understanding illuminates Ibn Arabi's soul. The fisherman's confession is like a key turning in a lock he didn't even know was there. He finally understands. The world is not the collection of things around you. It is not your wealth or your poverty. It is not your house, your car, your job, or your lack of them. The world is anything that takes up residence in your heart and stands between you and reality. It is the object of your attachment. It is the focus of your fear. It is the source of your anxiety. For the sage in Baghdad, the palace was merely a tool, a temporary dwelling he used but was not used by. For the fisherman, the water jug was not a tool, it had become his master. The palace was just a physical location. The water jug was a state of consciousness. This revelation, as Ibn Arabi himself would later recount, caused a great storm in his heart. It was a foundational shift in his perception, a lesson that would inform all of his later, vast and intricate teachings. He learned on that day that you can be a hermit in a cave and have a heart full of the world, consumed by your attachment to your reputation as a hermit. And you can be a king on a throne and have a heart that is utterly empty and free, a polished mirror reflecting only the divine light. True poverty is not an absence of things, it is a cluttered heart. True wealth is not an abundance of things, it is a spacious heart. Now let us bring this profound and ancient lesson into the quiet of our own lives. For each of us has a water jug. It is the thing that, despite its seeming insignificance, lays claim to the throne room of our heart where only the divine should sit. Find your stillness. Close your eyes. Allow the story to fade, leaving only its essential fragrance behind. Turn your attention inward, not with the harsh light of judgment, but with the gentle curiosity of a compassionate observer.
Ask your heart, in the silence, what is my water jug? It is probably not a physical object. For us, in our complex world, the water jugs are more subtle, more insidious. Is your water jug the number of likes on a social media post? That small, insignificant metric that you find yourself checking obsessively, allowing it to dictate your mood, to become a veil between you and your inherent self-worth. Is your water jug a particular person's opinion of you? That constant, low-level anxiety about what they think, that replaying of conversations in your mind, that worry that occupies your heart when you should be present with your own life. Is your water jug a recurring grievance? A story from the past about how you were wronged, an old hurt that you hold on to so tightly that it has become your most prized and most painful possession? Every time you try to find peace, does your heart return to this story, this broken jug of resentment? Is it a specific fear about the future, a what-if scenario that you allow to steal the peace of your present moment, a phantom that has become more real to you than the solid ground beneath your feet? Take a moment. Be ruthlessly, tenderly honest with yourself. Identify it. See it. Feel its weight in your heart. You will know it by the anxiety it produces. You will know it by the space it occupies. This is the world that the sage spoke of. It is not your house or your bank account. It is this little tyrant that you have allowed to rule your inner kingdom. Now take a long, slow breath in. As you breathe in, imagine you are gathering all the light, all the peace, all the vastness of the universe into your being. And as you breathe out, very slowly, imagine that you are looking at your water jug with infinite compassion. And with that exhale, you gently release your grip. You are not smashing it. You are not hating it. You are simply letting it be, without letting it be your master. You are withdrawing your heart's energy from it. You are taking back your throne. Breathe in spaciousness. Breathe out attachment. Breathe in freedom. Breathe out fear. Rest in this newfound space. This is the empty heart of the sage. It is not empty of love or joy or life. It is empty of clutter. It is empty of veils. It is a space of pure potential, a polished mirror ready to reflect the beauty of reality without distortion. The lesson Ibn Arabi learned on the road to Baghdad became the secret heart of his life's journey. He traveled the world, from city to city, from teacher to teacher, never putting down roots, never allowing any one place or person or idea to become his water jug.
His outer life of constant movement was a perfect reflection of his inner state of radical detachment. He was at home everywhere, precisely because he was attached to nowhere.
This is the freedom that is being offered to us today. It is not about selling all your possessions and moving into a reed hut. It is about undertaking the far more challenging and far more rewarding journey of emptying the heart of its secret tyrants. It is the work of a lifetime, but it is the only work that truly matters. Look around at your life. Appreciate its blessings. Use the tools you have been given. Inhabit the roles you must play. But guard the sanctuary of your heart with the vigilance of a dragon. Allow nothing to enter that sacred space that is not worthy of it. Let no cheap water jug become a veil between you and the vast, beautiful, and mysterious ocean of being. You are not what you own. You are not what others think of you. You are not your past wounds or your future fears. You are the vast, silent, peaceful awareness that is capable of observing all of these things without being captured by them. This is your true nature. This is your true wealth. This is the home you have been seeking all along.